You end up in a jail cell or in a graveyard. That's the blunt message from a senior cop to teens thinking about a life of crime. It comes as kids, some as young as 12, are being groomed and recruited by violent organised crime gangs, often through social media.
If they're committing offences with firearms or knives, there is every likelihood someone will be seriously injured or killed.
You're starting to see kids, first-time offenders, who are doing public place shootings. They are doing, stabbings where people are dying.
It's more than a crime wave, and if unchecked, it could become a tsunami.
I think we're in a very new world order, Simon.
A world order that's dangerous, unpredictable, and potentially deadly.
I think they're broadening their scope in terms of who they utilise to commit these offences. Before it was in-house, it was one organised crime entity against another. They were using their own people to commit these offences. Now they're outsourcing.
And it seems there are plenty of wannabe gangsters willing to take on the jobs.
They've got no affiliation with the organised crime network. They're solely being recruited and paid to commit offences against the enemies of these organised crime networks.
But it's the young age of the recruits that is worrying law enforcement. In recent months, we've seen a frightening spike in public place shootings, stabbings, home invasions. Most follow a familiar formula, with the crooks escaping in stolen cars, which are then torched nearby. Every state, every territory has seen an escalation in youth crime. In Sydney's southwestern suburb of Merrylands, this house was sprayed with bullets. It was a case of mistaken identity.
There was a mother with 4 young kids missing one of the 5-year-old by centimetres. So that was done by someone that's before the courts, a juvenile that we've charged.
How old was that juvenile?
15.
15 years of age.
That's right.
That 15-year-old has also been charged with another drive-by shooting.
That's the concerning part, the willingness of these juveniles to commit these serious offences. It's hard to comprehend, it really is, that they are going out committing these offences and potentially, as I said, there could have been 5 fatalities.
Detective Superintendent Jason Box heads up the State Crime Command's Task Force Falcon.
It's also going to be the rest.
100 strong, the task force is on the front line of the gang warfare.
There's been about 150 arrests so far, with over 320 charges. We've seized close to 60 vehicles that we say were staged, ready to be used in serious organised crime. Over 200 firearms prohibition orders have been executed, and we've also arrested people for the most serious offences.
Up until recently, detectives have focused on well-known crime families.
We knew who were members of those organised crime networks, but to self-promote and be quite overt in the fact they are part of these criminal networks is something that has changed dramatically due to social media and the need to be accepted and show everyone what they're doing. It's a different environment totally.
Now those organised crime networks, or OCNs, are recruiting teenagers and young men to do their dirty work. And where do these soldiers, if you like, where do they come from? How are they being recruited?
Social media, word of mouth, encrypted devices. They'll find a target, they'll find a person, and he'll recruit other people that live in that area.
In recent weeks, investigators revealed the existence of a criminal network known as G7. They're proud of their membership, using gang-affiliated hand signs, replicating a pistol.
There's probably about 14, 15 key members, and they're utilising probably that same number again to commit the offences. But that's what we know of. There's a lot of opportunities to continue this recruitment and expand their enterprise.
Operating on social media platforms, gang members boast about their membership.
I think there's a level of notoriety for being in groups like this. The promotion of being involved in part of these gangs is something we haven't seen before.
Gangs such as G7 specialise in what's known as staging cars, vehicles specifically equipped to be used in crime.
And a lot of these vehicles have firearms, face coverings, and they've all been altered to not appear that they are stolen. They have been used in drive-by shootings. They've also been used in stabbing offences that were investigated. They've been used in break-and-enters, aggravated break-and-enters.
Box says teen gangs such as G7 are increasingly being linked to violent crime.
We've found multiple weapons in their possession over the last week or two when we've executed search warrants. We've also connected them to targeted stabbings at homes, you know, staging of motor vehicles, the staging of firearms in those vehicles. So the planning and the preparation as well is a significant concern if they're not removed from these activities immediately.
OCNs hire the young gangs in a multi-tiered process. By doing so, they avoid being arrested and charged. It's very hard to trace all the way back to the source.
Yeah, and I think that's half of the attraction for using the juveniles, but they're doing everything they can to identify who orchestrated these offences, and I'm confident they'll get there.
Organised crime bosses and the teens drawn into this criminal enterprise know all too well that even if the young foot soldiers are arrested and charged, they'll likely be soon back out on the streets. Just last week, a young gang member who had been granted bail on 3 occasions was re-arrested for breaching his bail conditions.
He's been charged with firearms offences. We've been able to establish that he had possession of a firearm. We've put that evidence before the court. He was given strong bail conditions. We follow that up, which is part of our taskings. He breached the bail. He was put back before the court and he's given the same bail. So we're back to square one, monitoring to ensure that he's complying with his bail and he's not committing offences with firearms or serious acts of violence.
He's back on bail and will face court tomorrow.
It is frustrating that they're back out in the community. It's even more frustrating that they're reoffending. That's the problem. You know, we can only put the information before the courts of our concerns, and we've done that continuously. That we believe that there are too much of a risk to be in the community and that they will reoffend. And I think at some point, as I said, for the serious acts of violence, it needs to be listened to and people need to remain in custody for the sake of the community.
Box is cautious talking about the court system, but it's clear he holds serious concerns when it comes to teenage gang crime involving guns and weapons.
I know they're juveniles and I know that the magistrates have got a difficult job. They need to weigh up what's in front of them. They need to think what is the best option for this juvenile. Is it being in custody or back out in the community? But I also think, regardless of a juvenile or an adult, it really needs to be considered. If someone is charged with an offence using or carrying a firearm, should they be in the community?
And forget about loyalty. These young crims don't care where their orders come from, so long as they get paid. Young criminals for hire, basically, and whoever wants to pay them the cash.
That's correct.
Box believes that teens attracted to gangs like G7 don't realise the danger they're putting themselves and their families in.
It might seem like a good idea. It might look good on social media, but they'll be isolated rather quickly. If they're arrested, they're on their own. They're going to court on their own, they're going to jail on their own, they'll serve time in custody on their own.
And he warns they could face retribution.
As we've seen historically, there's always tit for tat when this happens in the organised crime world. So they need to be extremely concerned for their own well-being, and that then flows onto their family and friends.
What we are certainly seeing in the last 12 months certainly is an escalation on the level of violence and individuals at a younger and younger age who are committing more and more offences.
Let's look at the figures. 4,500 juveniles arrested with a staggering 60,000 charges laid. And that's in New South Wales alone.
In the last 2 to 3 years, youth crime has certainly escalated beyond probably what we have traditionally known.
Assistant Commissioner Jason Weinstein was the previous Criminal Organisations Director. He's now at the helm of youth crime.
The intent will be to start to develop plans and activities that actually get to the kids before they have the chance to be groomed by organised crime. You know, there's no real difference in my mind from an organised crime entity that recruits a 14-year-old kid than, say, a sex offender who recruits a 14-year-old kid. They essentially are doing the same thing. They are grooming kids who, you know, probably may not see the consequences of their behaviour, but they are being influenced and groomed by, you know, adults to undertake, as I said, that nefarious activities.
The emergence of G7 is indicative of the overall youth crime problem.
And one of the things that I'm certainly looking to do at the moment is starting to work out and understand where is that recruitment coming from, what is underpinning that behaviour, and then tailoring the youth command for me to start interdicting probably at that lower level.
Are you becoming concerned about the age of youth crime, juvenile offenders? Like, they seem to be getting younger, or is that just my imagination? I don't know.
No, you are 100% correct. You've got 13 and 12-year-old kids who are doing, you know, home invasions with knives, you know, for the purpose of stealing cars, not so much for joyriding anymore, but then moving those cars onto those inside the organised crime environment to use, you know, in some of those, you know, serious homicides and public place shootings that we're seeing.
Low-level street crime kids are graduating.
It's the symbolisation that goes with it, you know, the car and the clothes and the social media posts, the influencing, you know. So how do we combat that? I think it's about the messaging.
Weinstein wants to use an intelligence-led strategy to divert teens from a life of crime.
G7 predominantly, there's been a bit of a rise in, you know, the Pacifica community around some of the recruitment into organised crime.
The Assistant Commissioner plans to work with local communities to stop the young heading down a dangerous pathway.
We know that kids have been going out and doing crime, you know, posting and boasting, you know, for the purpose of getting likes. So that mentality is different to how it used to be.
And it's that mentality that Weinstein wants to change. However, he knows all too well it's not just a policing issue, it's societal.
Some families, especially in those regional areas, certainly require a lot of help. You know, there's mental health undertones, there is drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and there's family dysfunction. Again, that's not something that the police can solve, but we can certainly bring those services together and help those families.
You've talked about Task Force Falcon. Are they up to this job? Can they curb the activities of organisations such as G7?
We will not stop until we dismantle them.
You and I both know there's two ways when you get down the pathway. You end up in a jail cell or in a graveyard.
And he can't be more blunt than that. Let's hope it's neither.